Looking at his checking account the last 4 years is enough for Charles Seamster to have already made up his mind. This November, the Republican said he'll be voting for a better economy, something he thinks Harris cannot deliver.
The issues that she talks about now, she's not proven. She's not proven. So, I don't know if she's trusted.
Do you think Trump is proven?
The economy was definitely proven when he was in office.
If you look at the white voters without college degrees, this is a Trump base constituency, obviously. You see his huge numbers with this group. You see that this is a trouble sign for Harris. She also, in a place like Georgia, is not doing well with white college-educated voters. She probably wants to make up some ground with white college-educated voters across these battlegrounds as well, Kate.
An important gut check for both campaigns and on multiple levels in multiple states is what's coming out here.
The sugar high is done, folks, even with Tim Walz serving ice cream to voters. Mainstream media is now out of moves, and all that's left are the numbers and the policies that each presidential candidate is bringing to the table. And guys, before we get started, thank you so much for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Let's get started. The problem with the Harris-Walz campaign is that they've pretty much flip-flopped on a lot of these issues. And like I said, they're now focusing on creating a different persona for their candidates because they don't really want to talk about the concerns of everyday Americans. And it's causing momentum for Donald Trump's campaign, and it's really showing up in the polls.
He's got a twist cone. Twist cone. Who had chocolate malt? Twist cone. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Roy. Enjoy. Who's up? There we go. Oh, this is a big one. 2 chocolate malts.
What is that cake?
Caramel.
That's Chef Jay's. I want a slice of that. Caramel is like my favorite. Okay, chocolate and caramel. Fantastic. What are you getting?
Oh, I'm good.
No, you don't want anything sweet? You don't want anything sweet? Get something sweet.
So what is it with Democrats and their fascination of ice cream and dessert? And we're supposed to believe that these PR stunts are enough to pull their numbers up in national polling? Free ice cream? I understand that J.D. Vance had an awkward encounter with a donut shop, although he hasn't had many awkward encounters with media personnel. In fact, he's done a ton of interviews compared to both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And speaking of Tim Walz, his family isn't too happy with him. But unlike RFK Jr., mainstream media seems to be ignoring the story that Tim Walz's own family is not voting for his ticket.
Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, he's nursing a bruised ego after some of his relatives from Nebraska openly declared their support for Donald Trump. They've even posted a family photo wearing Trump shirts. Now, Charles Herbster posted the image of 8 family members, distant supposedly to the Minnesota governor, wearing matching tops which say Nebraska Walz's family for Trump. You just know that Christmas is going to be a little bit awkward for them this year, you know what I mean? And what's really funny is that they're going out of their way to label these family members as distant cousins. But forget about the fact that Tim Walz's older brother, Jeff Walz, has just come out in public to say that he completely disagrees with his brother's ideologies. But again, that's not something that mainstream media tends to like to pick up. Trump capitalized on this and said that Tim Walz's own family is voting for him. He talked about this in a town hall on Fox News with Sean Hannity. Now, remember, guys, this was supposed to be the first debate between Trump and Harris, but the vice president doesn't seem to be comfortable doing debates in uncharted territories. I read a book a long time ago, and it basically said something that was really powerful and profound to me, and it said something along the lines of, look at your 5 closest friends, and typically your income is an average of your 5 closest friends. Now, with that being said, I was kind of like thinking, okay, well, how do I find people who made way more than me so I could increase my chances of having a higher income? I mean, it only made sense, right? For less than a cup of coffee a day, for less than $1 a day, join a powerful network of people who are ready to change their lives for the better. And I will be putting a limit on this group, so get in while you can. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. She's comfortable with ABC News because she knows that they're going to do their best to rig it for her. However, they couldn't change the rules at the last minute, which pretty much pissed off the VP.
He kept looking down, up. Look, nobody wants to cover it. I know all about notes. I mean, it's all right if people know that, but she wasn't supposed to have notes. So she's asked a question. She looks down. She keeps She had notes. That means she knew that she knew what was happening.
About it. Did her campaign, when they said that they wanted to change the rules that they had agreed to, did they ask for notes? Did they ask for the debate?
They wanted notes.
They wanted to be seated, and they wanted your mic hot.
And they wanted a desk. They didn't want to do. I said, you got to do a stand-up.
After they already agreed to the other.
Yeah, but they wanted a desk from the beginning. You know who else wanted a desk? Sleepy Joe. He wanted a desk.
All right.
Changing the rules, or at least attempting to change the rules at the last minute, it looks bad. It's a bad look because it could mean different things to different voters. One is that the vice president is not ready to face off with Donald Trump in a debate. So she's trying to create excuses so that Trump himself would pull out from ABC News. The other is that she's pretty much leveraging her influence, even though most of us are already aware that she's got home court advantage with this debate.
ABC is the worst network in terms of fairness. They had a poll where I was 17 points down a couple of days prior to the election. I was 17 points down in Wisconsin. And they do that so people don't vote because, you know, hey, I love Trump, but he's 17 points down. I'm not going to go out and vote. I was 17 points down and I won. And I called the best pollster. I said, why wouldn't they say 5 or 4 or 3? Because at 3, you go and vote. At 17, your people say, I want to vote, but, you know, I'm busy. I have other things to do. Let's go see a movie, and we'll watch the results later. They are the most dishonest network, the meanest, the nastiest, but that was what I was presented with. I was presented with ABC. I think a lot of people are going to be watching to see how nasty they are, how unfair they are. I agreed to do it because they wouldn't do any other network. The other thing is, her best friend is the head of the network. Her husband's best friend is married to the head of the network. And they're going to get the questions. I've already heard they're going to get the questions in advance. They even have Donna Brazile. Remember Donna Brazile? She gave Donna Brazile. She's the real beauty. Donna Brazile. She gave Hillary Clinton the questions. You remember that? And she works for ABC, and she's at the round table talking about the debate. So we're going to watch very closely. But you're not allowed to do it. We even have a clause in the contract. You can't give them the questions, but I'm not sure it's going to help her that much, though. I think you might give her the questions and give her the answers with the questions. I'm not sure it's going to help her.
Now, obviously, guys, Donald Trump will be operating behind enemy lines, and the odds are clearly stacked against him. And yet this guy still chooses to say, you know what, screw it. Let's do ABC News, whatever. This is one of the reasons why people are going to vote for him. He's not afraid to go to any network and speak his mind. Meanwhile, you got both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz running away from the media and wearing headphones to avoid questions. Also, the one thing that Kamala Harris wanted to do in this debate is to have a strong black woman moment. Oh yeah, I forgot the air quotes. One that she's not going to get because the mics are going to be muted. And even though Kamala Harris is said to be preparing for the debate, some analysts believe that she's still working on an escape plan.
I think that the Harris campaign is looking for an escape hatch, is looking for a way to get out of this debate. To be clear, these are the rules that the Democrats wrote. These are the rules that we had in place for the CNN debate. Everyone had agreed to the rules, at least informally, with ABC. We have a deal with ABC. ABC has a deal. ABC is with us all the way on this.
And there you have it, folks. They wanted these initial rules in place. They're also the same ones that are trying to change them. So what do you make of this? Now, let me tell you guys, some days I feel like the word racist has officially lost its meaning. At least I don't think criticizing somebody does not automatically mean that they hate them because of their race or their gender. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, can't we have an honest to goodness constructive conversation anymore? Let me tell you guys, it's hard to get to that place when mainstream media is just trying to wedge us apart, especially when they tried to hide the truth from us. Because no matter how much fluff they try to cover up Harris with, no matter how many major events intervene, and goodness knows that there have been several, the state of this year's presidential race doesn't seem to change. Vice President Kamala Harris trails former President Donald Trump by 1 percentage point in the latest Fox News national survey. We're talking 49 to 50%. Last month, she was also behind Trump by 1 point, 48 to 49%, as was President Joe Biden with the same 48 to 49 result. And honestly, guys, these so-called polls, they're not even getting the whole picture. I mean, just look at 2016, 2020. All of them were so off when it came to representing the actual on the ground support for President Donald Trump. Don't believe me? Well, here's CNN's very own senior data reporter, Harry Enton, saying the exact same thing. Check this out.
And sort of point out, we've kind of been here before. So August 13th, how far were the polls off in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin? And this is in 2016 and 2020. Trump was estimated both times around and by significant margins. Take a look here. In 2016, the average poll in those states that I mentioned, those Great Lake battleground states, Trump was underestimated by 9 points on average at this point in 2016. How about 2020? It wasn't a one-off. Look at this. He was underestimated by 5 points on average. And of course, Kamala Harris's advantage in those New York Times Siena College polls were 4 points in each of these key battleground states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. The bottom line is this. If you have any idea, if you're a Kamala Harris fan and you want to rip open the champagne bottle, pop that cork, do not do it. Donald Trump is very much in this race. If we have a polling shift like we've seen in prior years from now until the final result, Donald Trump would actually win. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying that he is very much in this ballgame based upon where he is right now, and compare that to where he was in prior years.
We certainly heard the Harris campaign saying we have to keep fighting.
Absolutely.
This is definitely not over. All right.
I mean, all the buzz around Kamala Harris now? Really? Now, some would compare it to gaslighting. She was hated for being cringe and incompetent for both parties just a month ago. Remember? She was like the #1 least liked VP in history. So all this noise, you could even consider it straight up propaganda from the mainstream media. MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, Time Magazine, all basically running these campaign ads for her at this point. Or at least that's what it feels like, especially with all the polls showing Donald Trump and Kamala Harris almost tied. And the thing that kills me is they'll only survey like 500 people in this small area where they're most likely to get the result that they want. You know, it's very skewed, guys. And it dates all the way back to 2016. So over the past several election cycles, polling organizations have made some major mistakes, and we've all seen it. Even the expert Lona Atkinson, a political scientist who researches election surveys and public opinion, admitted that if you look at some of the biggest misses, they're pretty freaking big. Among the biggest misses that have scarred the polling industry is the 2016 presidential election, when various headlines littered the news claiming that Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton's chances of winning against Republican nominee Donald Trump were around 90%. An industry-wide postmortem identified several key causes of the 2016 polling flop, which I'm going to get into later in this video. But really, the bottom line here, guys, they always underestimate former President Donald Trump, or at least Democrats and their pet media do. And again, this isn't just me talking, guys. Even retired U.S. General Wesley Clark admitted to the dangerous tendency of Democrats to underestimate Donald Trump. Now, according to Clark, here's the thing about Donald Trump. He works very hard. He's very clever. He is charismatic. He can be charming. And so Democrats and people who are on the outside have a tendency to underestimate him because he has misspellings in his tweets and he's very emotional and he doesn't necessarily know anything about policies. But, and this is the part that really matters, you guys, he does touch a chord in the American public. Did you guys hear that? Trump touches a chord in the American public. And we should get ready because things are about to ramp up, in fact. With Vice President Kamala Harris riding this massive wave heading into next week's Democratic National Convention, former President Donald Trump and his campaign are preparing their counteroffensive as well. A Trump campaign senior advisor who asked to remain anonymous to speak more freely said that the campaign will put a whole cadre of people, including Donald Trump and top surrogates, into the field next week. And you already know we're going to be on top of things as usual, just like we are now with this one. So, I mean, what we should really be talking about here is the fact that significant majorities continue to give the national economy 73% and their personal financial situation 57% negative ratings. This is horrible. These numbers are really the ones that matter right now, and the economy is clearly the top priority for voters, guys. 38% of people are saying it will be the most important, the single most important issue in the vote for the presidency this 2024. Next comes immigration and abortion, tied at 14% each, with all other issues tested in the single digits. And guess what, guys? I really don't think it comes as a surprise to us here in our community that by a 6-point margin, more and more voters trust Donald Trump to handle the economy more than Harris. He had double-digit leads over Biden in the economy in 3 of the last 4 Fox News surveys. Voters also give Donald Trump the nod on handling border security by 19 points, immigration plus +14, foreign policy +7, and crime +5. And remember, guys, they're still not talking about the very real fact that historically, these polls have always underestimated Donald Trump in a big way. They even tried correcting for this last time, but still, when the actual 2020 election rolled around, polls yielded the highest error margins in 40 years. Again, underestimating Donald Trump's support. As retired U.S. General Wesley Clark pointed out in a recent podcast, Trump is not to be underestimated as a politician. In that very same interview, Clark was asked about Donald Trump's appeal to military veterans and voters. He said Trump comes in with an advantage for the veterans vote simply because he's masculine. He talks tough, and so a certain number of people are gonna like that. And things are about to get a whole lot more interesting, guys, as according to a Trump campaign senior advisor, they're certainly gonna have key people in the battlegrounds and available to the media to counter program while the Democratic National Convention is happening next week. In fact, they've already let one of their names slip. Republican National Committee Chair Michael Wadley. And according to Donald Trump, he's competing a lot and added that he would further pick up the pace after their convention. Their plans focus even more on branding their ultra-liberal and spotlighting her stance on the border, crime, and inflation. And you gotta see the campaign stops. I swear, Trump is like a racehorse with his stamina. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, that's just in 1 week. His running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, is holding campaign events too in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And since we're talking about running away, were you guys aware that the Harris Walz motorcade was recently involved in an accident on the road? Oh yeah, it was a big crash, blood and bones everywhere. It's pretty bad. One that they literally drove away from as their own staffers and media were bloodied and hurt. Now guys, I covered this in a previous video that you have to watch after this one. As always, appreciate you guys being here. Thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.